Hey, it's Sam, and I'm talking about March 2021. Spring, God, love, and war. What does it all mean? Check it out. So it's Sam, and I'm here talking about the upcoming month, or the month we're already in. It kind of got past me a little bit there because I've been busy. March 2021, I'm going to be going through the month and looking at the important shifts that are happening. You see here on the screen, I do have this 30-minute tune-up that I'm offering for people. A lot of people getting these. I just put the link in the description as well. And it's where you can have me look at your chart, assess and analyze the cycles for 2021, the things that could be the most helpful as we have big shifts coming. And I'm really looking around things like the 2021, Vedic astrology shifts. Many of you have already gotten the webinar that I did on that, which is for, it's a free, webinar. And we're coming into this part right now. There's a few things coming in March. You see love and romance, exalted Venus. That's one of the things I'll be talking about today, is that important shift. That's the kind of, spring, God, love, and war. The love part, the Venus will be exalted. So again, you can check that out, and you can get the 30-minute tune-up for your chart as well at that link that I put in the description. So what we'll be talking about today, though, is the chart for I'm going to be going over this chart. Hang on a second. Right there, we got it. For March 2021. So let me go back here. This is April. So we're going to go back and look at all the days. And I'm mainly going to be looking at the shifts. So we started here, right? So we started, this was February 28th. We started March 1st. We had the moon over here. And, just to kind of set the stage, is we started with this sorry, let's go up here. Yeah, so Mars and Rahu are in Taurus. That's going to be throughout the month. Mars and Rahu are in Taurus, and talk about what that means. And then we also have Venus and Sun. We start in Aquarius. Of course, they're going to move into Pisces. So this is again, God and the love part, God and love. And then we also are going to have Mercury is going to move and whatnot. But underneath it all, the lunar nodes are also in Taurus and Scorpio, Rahu and Taurus, Ketu and Scorpio for the month. Saturn is, of course, in Capricorn as well for the month. And so is Jupiter is also here in Capricorn, but we're going to see Jupiter start to move up toward Aquarius by the end of the month. So we see Jupiter starts at 22. So by the end of March, he's going to be ready to go into Aquarius. So you see Jupiter and Saturn have some separation here, 8 degrees when we start March. By the time we end it, Jupiter's going to be in another Rashi. So again, this is a big part of why my overall prediction for 2021 is that we're going to start out the year with a lot of intensity, a lot of, drama, and like we've seen, we're still dealing with COVID. In the U.S., we've had a lot of political stuff. Even around the world, there's still a lot of political situations. Russia, has been dealing with the issue with Navalny, and, in Europe, there's all kinds of, things happening all around the world. There's still a lot of intensity, but what's going to happen is moving forward as we get through March, and then as we get into April, we're going to start to see some dramatic shifts, but it's going to really start here in March as well. So let me take a drink and then we'll jump in a little more. And I'm not going to be doing this, heavily on politics, world situations. We're going to check in on them because, of course, they're a big part of our sort of common reference. But it's mainly how we can align with spirit and consciousness and awareness and, things of that nature. Because, underneath it all, we're all, existing under the same sky with the same potentialities. And the real benefit of understanding these shifts and transits are to really get the most out of our time here. And so we'll take it from there. As you see, I'm recording this on March 5th, and we can see that the moon is in Scorpio. The first part of the month, we had these planetary arrangements this way, as I just outlined. And the moon started in Virgo and then went into Libra. Now it's in Scorpio. I'm recording this now. The moon is in Jeshta Nakshatra. And it's close. Obviously, it's right on Ketu, the south node. So, and it's opposite Mars Rahu. So the first thing to really start to talk about here, I think one of the most prominent singularities of March that we don't see all the time, that is also quite transformative, is the Mars Rahu. And Mars Rahu comes together and shows, excuse me, little hiccup here, and really shows this sort of fighting spirit that we can, that we're sort of developing. This is Mars Rahu in general. Now, again, one of the things that is, deeper here is it's not just Mars Rahu anywhere, it's in Taurus. Now, as I said, when Mars went into Taurus, I did a whole video on that for each of the 12 signs that you should watch. Mars is in Taurus, it's much more subdued, right? It went through Aries, started Aries around Christmas of last year, around December 25th, and then it moved into Taurus a couple of weeks, about a week and a half ago or so. 2 weeks ago or something. And since then, a lot of the fighting sort of has been more subdued, more calm, fighting for things that are more grounded, more peaceful, more integral. And again, that might sound like a bit of a conundrum, fighting for stability, fighting for comfort, fighting for domestic bliss, or whatever it might be, right? And so Mars in Taurus has that quality of working hard and fighting for things that bring us more comfort and stability. So we can expect that to continue in March, but we also see that it's going to get closer to Rahu later in the month. We'll track this, but as it gets closer to Rahu, then Rahu starts to explode it a little bit more. The sign of Taurus is very much about wealth and money and those kinds of things. We could definitely see some corrections with we've already seen a little bit of pressure and stress on the stock market and whatnot. I don't do stock market predictions and all those general things, but I've been saying for a year now that Saturn in Capricorn, and then now Pluto is in Capricorn as well, that we're having a whole recalibration of our monetary system, our collective values, our collective wealth, and things like that. Of course, we've been seeing things like Bitcoin go up and down, the relationship to other sort of, not just currencies, but, commodities and hard assets and all that. This isn't my field of expertise, by the way. So all I'm saying, though, is that we can see on a collective level how this sign of Taurus, which is an earth sign, and Rahu being exalted there, can show like excess of wealth, like excessive sort of what you might call gains. I would say that Mars getting closer to Rahu could show, again, I wouldn't say losses overall because that wouldn't be the prediction, but transformation, maybe change, maybe destruction of certain parts of, if not the market, quote, just, people who are speculating or speculative asset kind of things could get, dicey. And again, particularly things like Bitcoin or other kind of things like that. Again, other kinds of hard assets or the relationship of investments can be very unpredictable and volatile. So as it gets closer around the end of March, which we'll track, we might notice those things. Now, again, that's an external thing. And I'm just saying volatility, okay? And it's hard to predict. Some astrologers, I know, they say, oh, Bitcoin's going to go here, it's going to go that, this is going to do that. And good for them. I'm not saying that, right? It's not my field of expertise to really certainly advise on any of that but again, we can see how there was the thing with, what was the name of that gaming platform that everyone invested in, where they started monkeying with the market to try to crash a lot of hedge funds and whatnot. I forgot. GameStop, that's what it's called. So again, we're already seeing a lot of this sort of aggressive moves against hard assets and trying to reveal weaknesses. So what does that mean in your own life, though? Again, it's transferable to your own life in that those embedded principles and routines and habits and values are getting shaken up now. Again, one of the best ways and reasons to look at external policies and principles, and it's really the main reason that I ever talk about these things, is they're correlate to our own life, our inner life, that we can all implement in our life, right? And so these things are definitely applicable, where, again, the things in your life and the Taurus area of your life, which is like your values, your, again, family, or your structure, those Taurus areas of life, however that is for you. For some people, Taurus is a difficult energy. For others, it's easier. Has these two, quote, malefics there. So again, Rahu is powerful there. It's powerful for Rahu. It's a bit disruptive for Taurus, though. But in the disruption, it expands it. So again, this is what's going on. And then you bring Mars in there. Now there's a lot of volatility also being introduced as the Taurus area is being expanded, like, let's say, our stock market or international monetary or money in general, value in general. Again, Rahu is trying to expand it. So we saw things like the market expand. But now Mars comes in, he's like, okay, part of the expansion is blowing something up over here. So let's blow this thing up. And again, in blowing something up, you create a gap somewhere, but there's still the, there's still the chance of, that we're going to have some, pain and some hurt, coming on. So this is, notice this in your life. Now, of course, the way to really understand this is that whatever house this is for you, like if you're Leo, this is your 10th house, right? If you're Aquarius, it's your 4th house. If you're Capricorn, it's your 5th house. So you're going to be feeling that just going forward. Way to personalize this. You're having that Mars Rahu that's trying to establish your values, your value system, and on the verge of like having it blow up or something. That's like, if you're Capricorn, it's your 5th house of like creativity, creative, explosiveness and blah, blah, blah. If you're Scorpio, it's your 7th house. Like, you might feel that kind of expansion of value and whatnot, but also the volatility in your partnerships and your relationships with others. So that's a way to sort of personalize it, but we can all kind of see this month. And this is the part where I said the war. I said God, I said spring, God, love, war. This is kind of the war part, right? But it's really a war for our values and really willing to work hard and have the courage to even break some eggs and blow some things up in order to get to a pure form of values. That includes value like money, like what's really valuable. And again, even if we use the correlation of money and Bitcoin and all that, what is authentic value? It's actually a good question with cryptocurrency because fiat capital doesn't have any inherent value. Cryptocurrency has even less because in order to even benefit from crypto now, you need to convert it to fiat. So again, it's like, but it's more secure and anonymous. Blah, blah, blah. So again, all of these things that relate to crypto is kind of like meta value here. So these are the kinds of things that we may see more volatility here, I would say, with the market, and particularly with things like cryptos and other things. We could see, especially as Mars gets closer to Rahu, we might see it go really high or really low. I'm not really sure which one, and I may look into it a little bit more, but it takes research. So if we look at other things, so again, we're just here in the beginning. So, and again, I'm just kind of stopping along the way to hit important points. If we go around, so again, the moon keeps going. Now we'll see when we get around March 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and we're going to have a new moon on March 12th, right? So from the 9th to the 12th, we're also going to be experiencing important spiritual festivals. Mahashivaratri will wind up being, let me do this. I need to have, it will be this day. It's probably March 11th, and that's Chaturdashi. Oops. Amavasya. Yeah, so it's probably March 11th. We're going to have Mahashivaratri, a great spiritual festival, the great night of Shiva, and that's also coming in March. So look for that, a great night to worship Lord Shiva, the night of great devotion, one of the most devotional nights of the whole year. And again, so we can see from March 9th, you see the moon is getting dark, March 9th, and then 10th. It's also now joined all these planets, especially Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury. Mercury then moves into Aquarius on March 11th, and that's also the Mahashivaratri night, I'm quite sure. So we could see these shifts. There's still a lot of Saturn energy here. All these planets are still in Saturn's sign. And again, this is one of the reasons why the prediction of the year is going to start pretty intense, with a lot of intensity. Again, not to mention all those planets that were in Capricorn, but then many of them move into Aquarius. They're still in Saturn's sign. But then they start to move. Hang on. So we see this is going to be one of the last really big honking Saturn events. Because then shortly thereafter, you see the sun is then going to move into Pisces. So now the sun is out of Saturn's signs shortly thereafter, the 11th. Venus is then going to move out. And these planets start to move, and then it's not going to be so much. But again, this early March, from March 9th to like the 12th, again, this is still a lot of Saturn energy, which is, again, this means there's a great benefit to making peace with stillness and solitude, introspection, meditation, silence. I've been really personally very much inspired lately to revisit my relationship with my spiritual roots, which was actually the practice of tantric meditation, which I started doing in the early 80s, and I'm even going to be teaching I'm going to be doing a workshop on that and teaching people teaching people tantric meditation. Um, all of this Saturn energy has really brought me back to this very still, simple, and beautiful meditations, which are really the essence of um, of of all meditation practices, really. Um, and just wanted to share this. You see this screen here. I have this. It's actually going to be part of the next generation of astrology conference now that I'm doing with my students. It's actually a bonus class for those who wanted to register for that. I decided to give this as a bonus. It's actually like a 4-hour class the weekend after, and it's I'm actually going to read through the text called the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. As you can see here, Vijnana Bhairava Tantra it's a very short text. It's just 112 meditation techniques that were transmitted in the 9th century in a dialogue between Bhairavi, which is another name for Parvati or the goddess, and Bhairava, which is another name for Shiva. And it's basically Shiva explaining to Parvati how to meditate. Very simple, like the essence of almost all meditations are in the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. And they're simple, meaning they're not complicated. You hear me all the time say, the need for meditation, especially now with all this Saturn energy. This is the time to do it. It's also, I've never taught this, even though I've been doing these meditations for close to 40 years. And I decided to teach it because this is really what people need. This is really what the world needs and people need, is to know how to just still the mind. And these are meditations that are all about surrender. It's not something to do. It's not a goal. Meditation isn't an accomplishment. It's not a goal. It's not yoga in that it's not about doing something and kind of wrestling the mind. No, it's actually just the opposite. And it's in many ways, it's very easy. Once you learn the secret of surrender, it's very easy. And so we're going to read through the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, and then we're going to do the techniques. I'm going to show you how to do many of the techniques. Many of them are very simple. They're like breath awareness, third eye meditations, gazing meditations, listening meditations, visualizations, again, and then combining them. Because I did these meditations for literally, constantly for 5 or 6 years when I was from 19 to about 24. That's all I did. It was just meditation all the time. Even meditations to penetrate sleep, to not stay unconscious all day and then have it penetrate sleep. All kinds of simple, beautiful meditations. So that's just going to be a bonus for people who want to come to the next generation of Vedic astrology conference. Again, that's also coming up. So this is going to be great with these great astrologers that I have been working with. So again, and I'm also doing a panel discussion on remedies as well on the final session. We're all going to do a panel discussion. So that's also there if you wanted to, check that out. So anyway, I just wanted to also, touch on that, because that's really one of the main ways that I've been utilizing this Saturn, this big important Saturn energy. Again, I don't just talk the talk, I walk the talk. So all these planets in Saturn signs, it's really brought me into this okay, this is really, it just happens spontaneously if you're attuned to it. So I've just been very much attuned to that, the simplicity, stripping away all of the crap, frankly, because it's the world is this and everything is this stress about the outer world. And we feel that too. All these planets in Saturn's signs, Saturn creates this external stress and pressure that can bury us underneath a lot of worldly pressure. Like, oh, now I got to do this, and now there's this, and this is happening in the world. Now I got to learn to meditate, and everything feels like external pressure. And it's not. It's actually internally, Saturn energy feels very simple and being present and simple and dialed in. So that's the great benefit. That's a great benefit now to all of us and this time here from March 9th through the 12th, you see the moon is moving through this area like I just showed, right? It's moving through this area, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. It's hitting Saturn in the sky, hitting, going over Saturn and Jupiter. And then you see the 13th, it breaks out, and then you see the sun. Now the sun is going to move into Pisces now on March 14th. March 14th, the sun goes into Pisces. And we're getting close to spring. I know when we're going to hit spring because sun is about 6 degrees. This would be like the first day of spring, March 21st. Based on the precession of the equinoxes now, the first day of spring happens when the sun is at 6 degrees Pisces. So again, starting on, and you see by that time, Venus is now joined. So we'll go back, and you see Venus is moving pretty fast. Look at how fast Venus is moving. It's 29:33. It's more than 2 degrees separated here on the 16th. Still almost 2 degrees. But it starts to close the gap here. It's about 1 degree. Well, it closes the gap to about almost exact within 10 days. So Venus is moving very fast in the sky right now. But we'll stay with the sun and this big Pisces shift. So in March, around the middle of March, of course, March 14th, and then to the end of and until the middle of April, we're going to start to see a big shift away from all of the Saturn energy. Again, there's still planets in Capricorn, and also Aquarius, but it's much less now. You can see it's not all the Saturn energy. By the middle, it's now going to be Pisces. So this big shift happening by the time we reach, March 18th. This big shift away from, I'm going to move this ascendant because it doesn't need to be that. Okay, I'll move the ascendant over here. So again, you can see how by the time we reach around the 18th or so, we now have Sun Venus in Pisces. And again, a big shift now into that metaphysic, transcendent quality. So it's really important to ponder the difference and the evolution of awareness, humanity, and consciousness from the Aquarius lesson to the Pisces lesson. Take a quick drink. So Aquarius is about the universalized individuals. My individuality universalized for the benefit of culture and the world and whatnot. So there's a lot of Aquarius energy right now because all the planets there. And it's where my personal identity becomes less important. And instead my collective responsibilities and awareness becomes the focal point. But Pisces is actually beyond that. Again, because the universalized, my individuality being aligned with culture is still me in the body, in the world of humanity, right? Humanity as a larger structure than just me and what I want. But there's something beyond humanity and this world. And that's what Pisces is about. Pisces is about that universal, that universal, that cosmic nature. I'll say cosmic because universal I just used to be like our universal identity. But Pisces is like our cosmic identity, which is transcendent of this earth. and time and space and physicality. So Pisces is where we're trying to connect with that part of our nature, which, by the way, is also why I picked these dates for the astrology conference that I just showed you. It's going to have the sun and exalted Venus. It's going to be a great time to be learning this stuff, right? And the following weekend, teaching the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra with sun and Venus also in Pisces. These transcendent practices, because you're not just this body and all these emotions and the outer world. In fact, it's the least important part of who you are. I know that might not seem true. Again, least important ultimately. Again, if we have the blessing of decent health, good food, safety on any level, then we're here to then connect to pure consciousness. If we're not, we're wasting our time on a cosmic level, on a spiritual level. And nothing short of that is ever going to be the reality. Everything other than that is an illusion. My job, my relationship, my kids, my health, all of that's real only in that it sustains our ability ultimately to connect with higher awareness. They're blessings in our life that can give us comfort, and they give us an opportunity to learn and evolve different parts of our nature. But ultimately, the true nature is transcendent. And if we can't connect with the transcendent nature, then everything else is confusing. If we can connect with the authentic nature, our transcendent nature, if we can connect with it, everything else becomes easy, because that's where the answers are. You know, when I'm doing a lot of these readings that I showed you, you know, these readings where I'm talking, you know, where people are having me look at their 2021 and they write me notes about what's going on. And, most of the time, and again, it's not it's not a criticism, because we're all like this, but especially when I'll get notes where it's kind of like everything is off. I'm wondering about my work, and my relationship is this, and this is that, and this is that. The issue is the person at that point. Like it's the connection to consciousness. And again, it's not a blame thing. It's just a recognition that when you connect with the stillness of your true nature, all of the answers come to you, because in essence, you are the truth. I want you to understand that for a second. It's not that there's truth somewhere, or you can find answers. Somewhere there's an answer. You are the answer. Your true nature is the answer. It's not only that it has the answers, it is the answer. It's connected to the source of all the wisdom. You are the wisdom. You're just not connected to it. It's like if you're saying, well, how do I get a coffee cup? How do I get it? And it's like, I have it right here. And then I just put a barrier in front of you. And you say, well, all I need to do is remove that barrier and then you can get it. Right, that's all it is. So the ego is like that barrier, like this. This is what the ego is. Behind it, there's all the answers. And this is the ego, the mind, your idea that you're this limited person with this limited body, this limited mind. This is what it's doing. It's just sitting there. All that you've constructed, that's the ego, actually. That's the ego. Meditation does this. That's all. And behind it, there's a coffee cup. No. Behind it is all the answers. So all the answers and whatnot is Pisces energy. That's the part of us that's always longing to merge with the answer. Where is it? I'll believe in this, maybe this religion, maybe this, that thing. Those are just philosophies that compel you to eventually move the ego out of the way and access the truth directly. The truth is always there, but you're blocking it. So meditation unblocks it. And that's the only thing that's going to do it. You could listen to me talk forever or someone else talk forever. And they're just going to be, if they're good teachers, or no, they're going to give some version of this ultimately, because that's where all the answers are. So again, there's a huge shift now, and we'll see it coming through in this Pisces area, starting in the middle of March to the middle of April. And so that'll be a big shift. And we still have, again, Saturn in Capricorn is still powerfully embedded there. It's still powerfully there. Rahu is still exalted, powerfully there. Again, now we have exalted Venus. Boom, look at all these glorious planets here. Saturn in its own sign, Rahu exalted, Ketu exalted, Venus exalted, and the sun is about to be exalted, right? So again, this is going to be really strong when we get to the middle of March. Don't waste it on just, oh, now I'm so happy. Let me go out. Now I did this, had fun, fell asleep, unconscious. Fun. No growth. So we've been through a lot of intensity and pressure. And hopefully, as the year starts to get better and things start to lighten up, we really, learn the lessons and enjoy the blessings of higher consciousness and bliss. So, again, this is also exalted Venus, which is great for not just romantic love, but that which is beyond just the romantic love. In fact, it might even be a little disruptive to some extent for the in the romantic love part. It's often, it could be disruptive in the romantic love sense because it's a challenge. Because again, it's sort of in some ways higher than just our worldly desires. This is why Venus is exalted in Pisces, because it's elevating those worldly desires to something more transcendent. It's getting dark here, huh? To something more transcendent, right? And that transcendence is sometimes disruptive to our desires and whatnot. But again, Venus exalted from, Venus exalted from March 17th, again, through into April. So you could see how, through most of April, again, through around the middle of April, it's about a month, we'll have Sun and Venus in Pisces. And again, they're also together the whole time, so it shows a kind of purification as well, and an elevation of Venus. Again, within your romantic partnerships, in your romantic love, it can definitely show. It can definitely show where there is more tolerance, more understanding, more, again, devotion and transcendent love, less neediness and all of that. But it also can show where your romantic love can be elevated to, again, a more spiritual place. And that's really beneficial even for things like, transcendent, sexual practices or other things where you sublimate just the pleasure aspect of it and really work more intelligently with the desires and the desire nature. So again, very powerful Sun-Venus transit through Pisces from the middle of March, to the end of March. Now, within that, we also see that Mercury also moves into Aquarius. Mercury's going to go fast through Aquarius. He was retrograde. He goes into Aquarius from March 10th until like the 30th. So Mercury going in Aquarius is also going to, from March 10th until like the 30th, is going to show a lot of desire to want to share your ideas with the public, share your views and ideas with the public, teaching aligned with higher wisdom. Again, this is another reason why I decided to have the conference, the Next Generation Conference, at that time, because I know that Mercury in Aquarius is very much in alignment with sharing these ideas with the public. I didn't really want to do it while Mercury was in that pile up in Capricorn. Didn't want to do it when it went into Pisces. But this is it's why it's such a great window that I picked it. It starts on the 19th. This is the day it starts on the 19th. You see Sun, Venus here. Mercury is there. So again, just to look, these are great times to be studying, learning, being silent, introspective, not getting so enamored and hypnotized and triggered by politics and the world and all of that. It's there. It's always going to be there. But again, we certainly have more options. And again, we're also going to start to see externally, in the world, we're going to start to see COVID start to calm down as more people get vaccinated and all that stuff into the future. And I think it's going to be a very celebratory year as we get into by the end of March. Again, there's right now there's so much radicalism and extremism, especially with political exploitation and all kinds of stuff it's there right now. I think going forward, we're going to start to see a lot of these things, again, calm down as our lives start to improve and everybody stops being at each other's throats, and a lot of the excuses, especially around COVID and masks and all the stuff, as that becomes less of a point and and that stops being a political issue, which it never should have been, we'll start to, everybody will be desperate and dying to start to enjoy life again and enjoy each other and not feel so frustrated around all these issues. These things are going to be just on the increase moving forward. And we can see a lot of this shift starting, again, around the middle of March. So, again, you can see here as we're around March 19th, again, Jupiter is also, as you see, creeping up toward Aquarius. He'll enter Aquarius in early April. But again, you can see here that, again, by this time, the Sun, Venus in Pisces, very mystical, Mercury in Aquarius, very, transcendent culturally. And as you can see, Mars is getting closer to Rahu. And, by the time we reach around the end, you see we're getting really close. So again, as we get to around the end of March, Mars and Rahu, it starts to really close the gap. You see Jupiter getting closer as well, 27th, 28th. Mars actually passes Rahu, actually joins on the 26th. He passes it, 25th, 26th. So again, these times from about the first day of spring, from about the 21st to about the 28th or so, we could see some of those things I talked about, like with some real volatility, maybe with the monetary system or with, again, stable structures in our world, even, again, stability of governments and whatnot. There's a lot of hotspots around the world, even like in Myanmar. Again, Russia has been dealing with an issue, that we could see more eruptions around that socially. Again, in the U.S. as well, there's a lot of volatility, but certainly financial markets and stuff like that as well. We could start to see those things show up. But again, the rest of the month, as you can see, on the 31st, the last day of the month, Mercury goes into Pisces. But for the most part, the last part of the month, from the middle of March until the end, we have this, couple of weeks that's very, the planets are kind of set in their ways. You can see I'm going back and forth. Nothing's really changing except the moon. From the 13th, from the 15th. Yeah, from the 14th until the end, all the planets are set. No, 14th, sorry. From the 17th, no, 16th. Yeah. So from the 16th or 17th until the end, again, that's like 2 weeks where all the planets are pretty much set in these ways. Mercury and Aquarius, wanting to share our ideas with the public, being open to other ideas as well, and that kind of finding common cause. Again, Sun Venus in Pisces, very mystical, metaphysical, deeply devotional, a great time for your practices to become devotional. The keyword is devotion and surrender. Again, I'm teaching a class on that, right? On the 27th. On March 27th, I'm teaching a class on that, right? And so that teaching a class on the meditations. And so that'll be a great thing. Now, again, that's free for people that come to the conference, but that's really my part, and I'm really looking forward to sharing those tantric practices, which again, tantric is very much the meditation of surrender, of relaxing, calming, not fighting. It's all internal, receptive. Yoga and other techniques of control are very externalized. Tantra is internalized. It's about surrender, relaxing, very much yin, very Piscean surrender, right? So that's a huge theme for the month. And again, then we'll start to see Mars Rahu get closer. And again, that could definitely show some volatility and other things like that. If we're not careful, we could get in that mode of sort of volatility, personal volatility around our relationships or other kinds of things. But ultimately, it's a really great month for all of these, transcendent qualities to, really land in your life, and not just be something that is, that you kind of think about, but you're not sure how to bring them about. And so I'm really looking forward to this month, and especially these planets moving, really positive shifts coming. And I see some comments here. Lisa La Rosa says, Sam, you're good medicine. Thank you. Okay. Well, everyone should share these things, on other channels, or on your YouTube channels, or your Facebook, or whatever you have. Trudy Shea says, silence for answers. Yes. That's definitely that's really the truth. We look outside for answers, and they're inside. And I don't mean they're inside in your brain, because this is a kind of new age slogan. You have all the answers inside. Yeah and no. Your ego doesn't, and most people are egos. Most of us are our ego. It's our thoughts and our emotions. That's not where the answers are. Sorry, it's not. That's not what's meant by what I'm saying at all. Your triggered responses is not where the answers are. And again, this is a big confusion that people who modern dharmic practices that get twisted around. Yes, the answers are all within, but you have to be aligned with the truth within to hear them. If the only thing you hear when you close your eyes is the chatter of your mind, that's not the answers. No, that's not it. That's not where the answers are. It doesn't mean that there aren't some answers there, but you might get lucky once in a while. And I mean ultimate answers. That's just your programming. That's your karma. That's your regurgitated habits. That's what your mind is, as you know. Your mind, as we experience it, as you experience it as an ego and as a separate being, is a regurgitated habit of thoughts you've been thinking your whole life on some level. They change a little bit, but it's coming from the same kind of... They change a little bit, but not very much. That's why we keep doing the same things mechanically over and over again. The same things upset us. Again, that's not the level. Where the answers are is behind all of that, before all of that. But in order to hear that, you have to quiet all of that. And that's what meditation is. And it's internal. It's not external. Even yoga and all of those practices, what they actually must lead to at some point is some point of surrender. And that's actually Tantra. Some form of surrender. That's actually what meditation is. Meditation is not the concentration part. It's not to sit here and do this and all of that. That's called dharana, which is a concentration practice. That's a technique. Meditation is actually the communion. The meditative state is not focusing on something. It's after you've focused and concentrated, dharana, a point of surrender happens and an opening happens. That's the meditation, not the technique. When you do a technique, it leads to surrender. Scientifically, it will. Like if you breathe a certain way, you will, at some point, consciousness will raise and it will take you to a point of surrender automatically. Then the meditation starts once that starts to happen. The Tantric practices are just right. The Tantric practices, in many ways, shortcut all of the dharana, shortcut all of the yogic practices, and get right to the surrender. They're still techniques, but they're more simple little seductive dances with the moment and with the energy. It's very different. It's very feminine. I know you might think, Sam, you're like a type A lunatic. How in the world can you talk about this stuff? I'm kidding. You see this part, you don't see the other part. The surrendered part, where I can just turn it off. Thank God, right? But Tantra is just right to the meditation, right to the surrender part. Look how dark it's getting here. Wow. Trudy Shea, so Tamar thought that was funny. So, said, thank you for expanding on the surrender. Yeah, that's really the point. So the Tantric methods are very much, they're all about the surrender part. They're all about the letting go and acceptance. That's the other part, is the acceptance. Again, we think we're accepting and we're not. People are like, well, how can you accept and then get hurt? That's not acceptance. Again, there's always these conundrums. The ego hears something and then jumps to its interpretation. Because when you say Tantra is acceptance and allowing, first thing the ego does is go, well, you can't accept everything. I mean, you got to protect yourself. I mean, that's not acceptance. That's not Tantra. That's the ego interpreting a word. So the techniques themselves are the point, just like all meditation. Wisdom is not the language, it's the method. So these are the things that are going to be unfolded. And by the way, they're right in the text, the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. You can read it. You can Google Vijnana Bhairava Tantra and download a Sanskrit to English translation and read the techniques yourself. I recommend it. And that's the reason I decided to teach these things, is because it's already out there now in the consciousness anyway. And I hear people talking about it all the time. Again, I've been doing these things. I have a lot of experience with the actual techniques, so I think it'll be very helpful. So anyway, aside from that, it's a good time to be doing it with all of this great energy flowing through and coming in with this, coming in with all these planets going through Pisces, moving on from the intensity of the Saturn, Capricorn, lunation cycles that we've just had. So again, I hope this was enjoyable for everyone. Sorry about the video getting so dark. I didn't gauge it right. I thought it was a little bit brighter. Anyway, so you all share this with others and you take care.